ช่างน่าประหลาดใจผู้ชายคนหนึ่งที่เป็นโรคข้อเข่าเสื่อมที่ต้องนั่งรถเข็นมา2 ปีสามารถปั่นจักรยานรอบหมู่บ้านได้ร่างกายยืดหยุ่นอาการปวดกระดูกสันหลังหายไปหมดแล้วแขนขาไม่ชาหรือขั้นอีกต่อไปเขาไม่ส่งเสียงกระรุ้งกริ้งแล้วข้อต่อเริ่มนุ่มและยืดหยุ่นมากขึ้นราวกับว่าเขาไม่เคยเป็นโรคกระดูกและข้อมาก่อนเขาปวดเมื่อยทั้งตัวทุกวันในหลายปีที่ผ่านมาปวดเมื่อยทั้งข้อเข่าและเท้าแขนขามีอาการชาตลอดเวลาข้อเข่าบวมต้องทานยารักษากระดูกเสื่อมหลายชนิดทำให้เขาต้องไปหาหมอที่มีชื่อเสียงทั่วประเทศไทยหลายครั้งแล้วแต่ไม่ดีขึ้นบังเอิญเขาได้เพื่อนแนะนำเม็ดฟูเขาซื้อ5 หลอดมาใช้ทันทีวันละ2 เม็ดดีมากเลยเพราะว่าภายใน7 วันเขาก็รู้สึกว่าอาการปวดเมื่อยลดลงรู้สึกสบายมากขึ้น
เราเข้าใจคุณดีนะครับว่าอาการปวดข้อเข่าเสื่อมเนี่ยมันทรมานแค่ไหนจะขยับตัวจะเดินแต่ละครั้งเนี่ยมันก็ไม่สะดวกเสียงกระดูกนี่ดังกรับปวดบั้นท้ายปวดข้อปวดเข่าคุณภาพชีวิตก็แย่ลงครับผมกล้าท้าให้คุณเอาไปลองได้เลยแค่7 วันก็กลับมาเดินได้ถ้าคุณอยากหายผมจะมาบอกว่าต้องทำอย่างไรสามารถมั่นใจได้เลยนะครับว่าผลิตภัณฑ์นี้ดีจริงๆเพราะว่าลูกค้าหมื่นรายเนี่ยกลับมาซื้อซ้ำการที่ทานเป็นประจำทุกวันเนี่ยทำให้ชีวิตของเขาดีขึ้นจริงๆเขาอยากจะไปไหนเขาก็ได้ไปเขาอยากจะทำกิจกรรมอะไรเขาก็ได้ทำไม่กลับมาเป็นภาระของลูกหลานต่อ
โรคข้ออักเสบโรคข้อเข่าเสื่อมทำให้เกิดอาการตรึงและปวดในหัวเข่าไหล่หลังกระดูกสันหลังแขนขาหากไม่รักษาโรคก็ค่อยๆแย่ลงทำให้เป็นอัมพาตและพิการเม็ดฟูโบคาเมจากสหพันธ์สาธารณรัฐเยอรมนีพร้อมสารออกฤทธิ์แฮปโปไซส์เพื่อช่วยบรรเทาอาการปวดสร้างใหม่และบำรุงกระดูกอ่อนข้อโดยปกป้องเยื่อหุ้มไขข้อเพิ่มความแข็งแรงและความยืดหยุ่นของข้อต่อชะลอความเสื่อมและปกป้องข้อต่อช่วยให้คุณเคลื่อนไหวได้อย่างคล่องตัวและควบคุมชีวิตของคุณเม็ดฟูโบก็ช่วยบรรเทาอาการปวดสร้างกระดูกอ่อนข้อปกป้องกระดูกและข้อ
เนื่องจากผมใช้ผลิตภัณฑ์เม็ดฟูข้อเข่าเสื่อมโบคากระดูกและข้อของผมเนี่ยกลับมาดีขึ้นเลยครับผมชีวิตก็กลับมาดีขึ้นเช่นกันรู้สึกสดชื่นสุขภาพแข็งแรงกินได้นอนหลับครับโบคาเนี่ยสุดยอดจริงๆครับผมต้องขอบคุณโบคาครับที่ทำให้ผมเนี่ยกลับมาใช้ชีวิตได้ตามปกติอีกครั้งครับมีสินค้าดีๆแบบนี้ผมก็อยากจะแนะนำให้กับคนที่มีอาการแบบเดียวกับผมนะครับได้รู้จักกันมากๆครับผมเพราะว่าการเจ็บปวดจากโรคอาการแบบนี้เป็นระยะเวลานานๆเนี่ยมันจะส่งผลกระทบต่อชีวิตและจิตใจอย่างมากเลยครับหวังว่าเม็ดฟูข้อเข่าเสื่อมโบคาจะนำผลดีมาสู่คนที่มีอาการข้อเข่าเสื่อมเช่นผมนะครับเม็ดฟูข้อเข่าเสื่อมโบคาคือที่1
ถึง 3 เดือนแรกมันก็ค่อยๆดีขึ้นนะคะอาการปวดมันก็น้อยลงเข่ามันก็ไม่ดังก๊อบแก๊บก็เริ่มเดินดีขึ้นแม่เดินไม่โยกไม่เยกพอทานมาเรื่อยๆประมาณ 6-7 เดือนเนี่ยค่ะมันก็ค่อยๆหายไปความตึงก็ไม่มีค่ะก็เดินดีขึ้นแม่ขายของได้ทุกวันยืนตั้งแต่เช้าจนเย็นแม่ก็ยืนได้ไม่ปวดเข่าเลยค่ะ
เหมือนปาฏิหาริย์จริงๆเรื่องจริงเลยอันนี้ไม่ได้โกหกไม่ได้อะไรมาสอบถามคนแถวนี้ได้เลยนะเหมือนคนปกติอะค่ะขึ้นเขาได้ไหว้พระได้ขึ้นเขาผาซ่อนแก้ววัดพระธาตุผาซ่อนแก้วลูกตกใจขึ้นถึงสุดเลยขึ้นไปข้างบนสุดเลยไปถ่ายรูปไปอะไรต่ออะไรลูกยังบอกไม่น่าเชื่อเลยนะแม่ไม่น่าเชื่อว่าแม่จะดีขึ้นขนาดนี้ใครที่เป็นข้อเข่าเสื่อมนะคะทานเลยนะคะเพราะว่าขนาดดิฉันนะคะเป็นทั้งข้อเข่าเสื่อมแล้วก็รุมาตอยนะคะลองเลยค่ะไม่ต้องเสียดายตังค์นะคะคุ้มค่าที่สุดเลยค่ะสุขภาพเราดีที่สุดแล้วทานแล้วสุขภาพเราดีเนี่ยโอเค
เหลือเพียง50 ชุดเท่านั้นค่ะกับส่วนลด 50% สำหรับเม็ดฟูโบเคอร์รีบโทรมาที่หมายเลขโทรศัพท์ที่อยู่บนหน้าจอเลยค่ะเพื่อรับข้อเสนอซื้อ3แถม1ซื้อ4แถม2ซื้อ6แถม3
ตอนนี้มีเม็ดฟูโบคาผลิตภัณฑ์พิเศษที่ช่วยให้ผู้ป่วยหายปวดได้เร็วไม่กลับมาเป็นซ้ำและไม่ต้องผ่าตัดอีกด้วยสินค้าได้รับความไว้วางใจจากคนไทยหลายพันคน
เม็ดฟูโบก็เป็นส่วนผสมของสารออกฤทธิ์แฮปโปไซด์และเทคโนโลยีเอนไซม์ค้นคิดโดยนักวิทยาศาสตร์ซึ่งเป็นความหวังอันยิ่งใหญ่ของผู้ที่เป็นโรคข้อกระดูกเสื่อมการวิจัยที่ก้าวล้ำนี้ไม่เพียงแต่มีประสิทธิภาพสูงในการลดอาการปวดลดการอักเสบส่งเสริมการสร้างกระดูกและฟื้นฟูกระดูกอ่อนข้อเท่านั้นแต่ยังช่วยให้ผู้ป่วยคล่องแคล่วเคลื่อนอย่างรวดเร็วเมื่อเคลื่อนไหวและป้องกันการแข็งตัวได้อย่างมีประสิทธิภาพ
คู่นะครับเป็นเวลา1 สัปดาห์ผมรู้สึกว่า อาการมันดีขึ้นนะครับ รู้สึกตรงที่เจ็บมันเบาลงมาก ตอนนี้ข้อต่อของแขน ขาเคลื่อนไหวได้ตามปกติดีขึ้นกว่าเดิม กระดูกสันหลังก็เจ็บปวดน้อยลง เคลื่อนไหวดีไม่เหมือนเมื่อก่อนเลยครับ
ไปได้ 10-12 วันอาการปวดเนี่ยมันก็เริ่มหายเดินทางง่ายขึ้นที่สำคัญเราเนี่ยทำงานง่ายขึ้นแล้วก็เร็วขึ้น แล้วก็ไม่ต้องทนทรมาน
หลังจากที่ผมได้ลองใช้เม็ดฟูโบกาแค่5 วันเนี่ยอาการปวดหลังเนี่ยมันลดลงจริงๆครับกลางคืนเนี่ยนอนหลับสบายมากขึ้นไม่ต้องตื่นกลางดึกเหมือนแต่ก่อนแถมยังไม่มีอาการปวดหลังเลยทั้งนี้
ข่าวดีสำหรับผู้ป่วยเป็นโรคข้อเข่าเสื่อมเป็นครั้งแรกที่นักวิทยาศาสตร์เยอรมนีประสบความสำเร็จในการใช้ฮาปาโกไซด์สารออกฤทธิ์ที่พบในต้นโครงเล็บปีศาจเพื่อบรรเทาอาการปวดได้อย่างมีประสิทธิภาพหลังใช้เพียง 5-7 วันป้องกันการเสื่อมสภาพและช่วยให้กระดูกแข็งแรงประสิทธิภาพที่ได้รับการพิสูจน์จากทางสถาบัน RKI ประเทศเยอรมนีช่วยให้ผู้ป่วยลดอาการปวดเคลื่อนไหวได้ง่ายขึ้นและที่สำคัญไม่ต้องผ่าตัดค่ะ
เวลาไปไหนมาไหนเนี่ยจะรู้สึกว่าเราก้าวขาได้ไม่ค่อยดีนะคะไปพบคุณหมอค่ะคุณหมอก็ให้ยามารับประทานนะคะแต่ว่าไม่ดีขึ้นนะคะจนกระทั่งดิฉันได้มาพบดร.เดชานะคะดร.เดชาเนี่ยเป็นผู้ชำนาญเกี่ยวกับการรักษาข้อเข่านะคะแนะนำให้ดิฉันรู้จักโบคาค่ะเป็นเม็ดฟูที่ช่วยรักษาเกี่ยวกับอาการปวดข้อเข่าโดยเฉพาะค่ะดิฉันรับประทานมาแล้ว3 หลอดนะคะบอกได้เลยว่าดีมากค่ะอาการปวดข้อเข่าต่างๆเนี่ยหายไปนะคะเรียกว่าใช้ชีวิตประจำวันได้กลับมาเหมือนปกติเลยเวลาขึ้นลงบันไดเนี่ยสบายมากนะคะเวลาก้มเวลาเงยหรือว่ายืดตัวย่อตัวพวกนี้สบายมากเหมือนสมัยสาวๆเลยค่ะใช้แล้วเนี่ยดีมากเลยรู้สึกว่าอยากจะบอกต่อนะคะโบคานะคะเป็นเม็ดฟูที่ช่วยเสริมสร้างเนื้อเยื่อกระดูกอ่อนแล้วก็ฟื้นฟูเนื้อเยื่อข้อเข่านะคะใช้แล้วเนี่ยจะรู้ว่าเห็นผลค่ะเพราะว่าอาการปวดแป๊บเจ็บแป๊บเวลายืดเวลาเหยียดเวลาก้าวขึ้นลงบันไดพวกนี้ดีขึ้นมากเลยค่ะสำหรับคนที่มีปัญหานะคะอย่าเก็บไว้ค่ะอย่าทนทรมานนะคะแนะนำโบคาเลยค่ะเพราะว่าใช้แล้วดีจริงๆนะคะใช้แล้วเห็นผลค่ะขอบคุณมากค่ะ
ผู้ชมทุกคนคะในการสั่งซื้อเม็ดฟูโบกาของแท้โปรดติดต่อหมายเลขสายด่วนด้านบนหน้าจอเราพร้อมเสมอที่จะช่วยและซัพพอร์ตทุกคนนะคะ
หลังจากที่ทานเม็ดฟูได้10 กว่าวันนะคะตอนนี้ก็ไม่มีอาการปวดแล้วนะคะเข่าทั้ง2 ข้างอันนี้ก็แบบยืดได้สบายๆไม่มีรอยแดงบวมเลยนะคะได้รู้จักตัวเม็ดโบกาเร็วกว่านี้นะคะอาการก็คงจะไม่แย่ขนาดนี้นะคะแต่ว่าตอนนี้รู้จักแล้วก็รู้สึกดีๆรู้สึกดีมากเลยค่ะ
เมื่อก่อนผมรู้สึกผมชอบมันมากผมก็เลยซื้อมาตอนแรก3 หลอดเป็นเม็ดฟูละลายน้ำค่ะผมไม่คิดเลยว่าผลิตภัณฑ์โบกาธรรมดาขวดนี้จะออกฤทธิ์และให้ผลที่รวดเร็วมากผมทำไปประมาณ3 สัปดาห์ผมรู้สึกว่าอาการปวดเข่าปวดข้อเนี่ยมันค่อยๆหายไปต้องขอบคุณโบกามากครับที่ทำให้ผมและครอบครัวได้กลับมามีความสุข
โบคานี่ดีจริงๆเลยค่ะถูกใจมากๆเลยไปลองกันนะคะทุกคน
ดิฉันได้ทำตามคำแนะนำของคุณหมอดื่มวันละ2 เม็ดเช้าเย็นหลังอาหารนะคะไม่น่าเชื่อเลยนะคะผ่านไป3 เดือนแล้วเนี่ยอาการต่างๆนะคะที่เคยปวดข้อปวดเข่าอะไรต่างๆดีขึ้นมากเลยค่ะหายไปเลยไม่รู้สึกปวดเลยเดี๋ยวนี้เดินไปตลาดไปซื้อของเพื่อเอามาทำอาหารที่บ้านเองหรือเดินไปปากซอยสบายมากเลยค่ะไม่รู้สึกอาการปวดอะไรเลยเดินไกลๆได้ดีเลยเพราะว่าโบกาเม็ดฟูนี่เองค่ะ
เพียงแค่1 เม็ดใส่แก้วละลายน้ำและดื่มหลังอาหาร20 นาทีวันละ2 เม็ดจะช่วยขจัดอาการต่างๆเช่นปวดเข่าปวดหลังปวดกระดูกสันหลังชาที่แขนขาผู้ป่วยหลังจากใช้โบคาทุกคนพึงพอใจมากสามารถเดินขึ้นลงบันไดเดินไปตลาดหรือทำงานบ้านได้ตอนนี้ชีวิตของพวกเขาเปลี่ยนไปอย่างสิ้นเชิงหลังจากใช้ผลิตภัณฑ์เพียง 2-3 เดือนมีลูกค้ามากกว่า 500,000 คน เคยใช้และพึงพอใจมากกับเม็ดฟูโบคาคุณสามารถโทรติดต่อสายด่วนเพื่อทราบข้อมูลเพิ่มเติมเกี่ยวกับโปรโมชั่นเพื่อรับคำปรึกษาฟรีจากผู้เชี่ยวชาญ
กระดูกและข้อของเราก็เหมือนมอเตอร์ไซค์และรถยนต์นะคะ หากเราใช้ไป 10 ถึง 15 ปีโดยไม่รับการดูแลเอาใจใส่ มันก็จะพังและต้องทิ้งไปค่ะ แต่ถ้าเรามีวินัยต้องดูแลหลังจากใช้งานแต่ละครั้ง พวกเขาจะได้ทำความสะอาดบำรุงรักษาทาน้ำมันและจาระบีอย่างสม่ำเสมอมันจะอยู่กับเราได้หลายปีนะคะร่างกายของเราก็เหมือนรถยนต์คันนั้นวัยชราก็จะแก่เฒ่าและสึกหรอไปเองนะคะแต่ถ้าเรารักษาตัวเองให้คุณค่ากับสุขภาพตัวเองเราก็ซื้อผลิตภัณฑ์อย่างโบก้ามาดื่มนะคะดูแลมันแล้วมันก็จะเจ็บปวดน้อยลงค่ะมีชีวิตที่มีสุขภาพดีขึ้นเราก็จะรักชีวิตและหงุดหงิดน้อยลงค่ะเราก็ใช้ชีวิตด้วยพลังบวกไม่เป็นภาระลูกหลานในวัยชรา
Do it now. Let's go. Your backpack that's on the table. Next, you're gonna open your box up. Open it up. Hang it on your box. There's a lock on it. It has a chain on it. You're gonna wear it like your necklace. Just put it on. Let's go.
I am Pedro Como, and tonight I'm going to be going through and explaining every item that new recruits receive here tonight in their Diddy box. Great Lakes RTC Night of Arrival. Diddy is going to be the first issue of uniform items that new recruits receive once they come here to Great Lakes RTC for basic training. It's going to be uniform items, hygiene products, shoes, anything that they might need here, basic necessities that they need throughout boot camp.
So, what was your memory of Diddy issue? What was it like when you went through it?
For me personally, it was very shocking because I've never had to move this fast, like getting dressed and putting on all these different outer garments and weathers and covers and hats and things like that. Well, first thing we're going to start with, we'll start with the socks. They're pro feet, moisture socks, keep your feet from sweating. Just cotton athletic socks, yes.
Do you get any more like thicker socks since it does get real cold here in the Chicago area?
No, they just able to put 2 pair on if it gets too cold. The next item will be shoes. They get brand new pair of shoes so that everyone have a similar brand shoes. They use these shoes doing PT sessions, doing outside runs, inside runs at Freedom Hall. So now they have an option of wearing tennis shoes throughout boot camp. These are SAS running shoes, but we have like 3 or 4 different options. Next, we're going to go in what's called the knit bag. The knit bag is where we collect the laundry, but for now we're holding all the items that they're going to be issued here at night of arrival. Inside the large knit bag, we have sweats. We call them Smurfs here at Great Lakes RTC boot camp. And it's basically just a sweatsuit, top and bottom. Your Smurfs is just a funny nickname because they all look like little Smurfs walking around base. All right, next here we have PT shorts. These are what they use when they go to Freedom Hall to do workouts, when they do their little exercise in-house. They're just basic shorts with little pockets on it. The ID card holder that's on the inside here. The way they can put their little ID in there when they're wearing them. They don't have to have a whole wallet or carry in their hand or anything like that. They also use these when they go and do the initial swim.
Really?
Yes.
They're not like a bathing suit or like swim trunks.
No. Next item would be the yellow PT shirt. These shirts are used for PT with the PT shorts that we received earlier. Just a cotton material with the navy on the front left, big navy in the front back. The collar's not too tight to me personally. I know they just did an upgrade, so they got a new shipment in. I don't know if it's just the fabric or the material they use or if they switched it, but I have not had any issues with the shirts myself personally. Next, we have the brown t-shirts, the Coyote Brown. These here are going to be the one that you wear under your Type 3, which is the uniform that I'm wearing now. It's a cotton t-shirt and you just wear it under your Type 3s. Next here we have the skivvies known as underwear, and they're just a basic plain white underwear for the male and female recruits to wear. Later on in boot camp you are able to buy regular boxers if you would like, but these are like just standard issued boxers briefs that every recruit gets once they come through boot camp.
Are these comfortable? Are these like, I mean, they look kind of like what my dad wore in like 1983.
Boot camp is temporary. It's only the basic things that you need. So if you can deal with these for 2 to 3 months and then go about your life and get whichever ones you want, these are like the bare minimum that you need.
How many pairs of skivvies do you get?
You get 8 pair. The laundry gets done by the recruits themselves. They have what's called a laundry crew. They collect all the uniform items that they wear throughout the day and they turn it into the laundry crew. Laundry crew have these bags and they just take them up. After they do hygiene, they do laundry in-house, then they pass it back out later on in the nighttime. Now here is the large white knit bag that I was telling you about earlier. You're gonna stencil this also. And this is also where you put your dirty laundry once you get to the ship. So you're issued it here and you can, once again, you're gonna put your name on it and all your dirty laundry will just go inside. It opens up like a little laundry bag. We have shower shoes. The shower shoes are used for when they're going and take a shower, hygiene. They're just little shower shoes so they can go from their rack to the shower and then back. And then they can change into their socks and their shoes. Next, we have the backpack. The backpack is issued because they're gonna have multiple items they need to carry. Up next, we have the hydration tool, your water bottle, and pretty much you're just gonna put your name on it and then you're gonna carry this around everywhere you go, whenever you leave. That way you're able to hydrate as required.
Why is hydration such a big deal?
It's a big deal because we do a lot of PT. Even though it's wintertime, your body still needs to hydrate. A lot of people think just because it's wintertime, I'm not sweating, that I'm not losing water, but you actually are losing just as much as you do in the summer. They have the electrolytes and the Pedialyte for muscle recovery to help you with the soreness, and you're able to drink that also inside of here. Next item we have here is going to be the glow belt. Each recruit is issued a glow belt. That way once they're out by themselves and they're not with the division, they're able to be identified. All it is it goes around your backpack, or if you don't have your backpack with you, it goes around your waist. And it's just like a little belt so you can be identified when you're walking throughout the streets. Next here we have the garment bag. The garment bag is used to put your dress uniforms in. That way they don't get dirty or any stains or anything like that on it. When you're traveling, when you're walking around, when you're going from different commands, and it just unzips. You put your little hangers in there and your dress uniforms go in. You zip it up and then you're able to hang it up to prevent them from getting dirty or dust or anything like that on them.
They don't get their dress uniforms issued tonight, do they?
No, they do that in week 2. Next here we have the Blue Jackets manual. It's all the important dates in history of the United States Navy, and it's for them to read so they can study and have a basic knowledge of what happened with the recruits and sailors before them.
Are there like key aspects of that book that every recruit needs to learn fast?
Yes, there is, but there's also another book that they are going to be issued when they take their first test. But this here goes more in depth. The one that they're going to get is specifically just for here.
Is this something that recruits keep with them after they leave? Or?
Yes, me personally, I still have mine. I still have my stamp here with my name on it, division number. I still have my whole sea bag with everything that I was issued when I left here.
Why do you keep this book? Why do you keep that stuff?
It's history. I want to be able to say, hey, I had all these things, because I see that things are changing. They don't have things that we had, and we don't have things that the ones before us had. So I like to keep part of history with me. Next, we have here the Diddy box with a lot more items in it. The first one here is a small white knit bag. And on the inside of this small white knit bag, we have pens and Sharpies. The pens are going to be standard recruit ballpoint pens, and they're just used for them to fill out all their paperwork, all the information, write down whatever they need to write. Here we have Sharpies. The Sharpies are used to fill out their name on certain items. Later on, when they get their box, they're going to put their name and things on the box, so they're going to use a Sharpie also. Also inside of this bag, you have a plastic bag with a key. They're going to be issued a standard master lock for their personal lock, their personal drawer, and they're just going to be able to lock it up and carry the key around. The spare key will be kept with the RDCs just in case they lose the one that they're issued that they keep up with throughout boot camp. This lock is used to keep all their valuables, their personal stuff, their wallets, their IDs, their cash, their money, anything that has value. Next, we have the sea bag. The sea bag is where they're going to put every single item that they're issued tonight here, with the exception of their backpack, and they're just able to put it inside of here. And it also has a spot for their lock to go on here so no one can get inside and mess with their valuables or they lose anything. It has straps here and they just put them on just like a regular backpack.
Is that waterproof?
Yes, it has a little flap in here on the inside, so when you go in and close it, you can put this over the top so the water doesn't get on the inside also. Next, we have the covers, recruit ball caps. The first one here is going to be the standard Navy recruit ball cap. This is going to be the one that they're going to wear around. Unless it's inclement weather, then they're going to get the watch cap, which they're going to wear in cold weather. But this one here is the one that they're going to wear anytime they exit a building. The next one here would be the Navy ball cap. This is going to be the one that they're going to get emotional for once they get to graduation and they get to actually wear the one that says that they're actually U.S. Navy sailor.
When do they get that Navy ball?
So they have to complete what's called battle station. It's very intense. It's all night. They just pretty much do everything that they were taught in the 8+ weeks, and they have to do it all within 24 hours. And they have to go through and complete every single station in order to become a U.S. sailor. And that's when they get the actually put this one on.
What did that make you feel like to wear that finally after going through all that at boot camp?
Putting on the Navy cap meant that I was part of a bigger force, part of something that was bigger than myself. Just being able to say, hey, the people, the RDCs that trained me, taught me, I'm able to say, hey, I'm part of the U.S. Navy just like you are now.
Do a lot of sailors get emotional when they
Yes,
that?
Absolutely. A lot of sailors, once they're able to put these on, a lot of them lose their voice because they're crying, they're tear-eyed, their eyes are all red. Like I say, it's a big moment for a lot of people. Next, here we have a shoe shine kit. Inside this shoe shine kit is going to be all the items that you need to shine your dress shoes and also your drill boots you're going to be issued at a later date also. It just has the shoe shine polish, the brushes, everything that you need to make your shoes nice and shiny for your inspections or just walking around base.
And you get taught how to shine your shoes? Or do you come in and expect to know how to do it with all these tools and materials?
A lot of the recruits, once they come in, a lot of them already know because they look it up on YouTube and things like that. But RDCs, at a certain point in time, they also do like mentoring and they teach the recruits how to shine boots on, give them little tips and pointers on how to actually make it look better. Next here, inside another small white knit bag, the first item is going to be a stamp kit. The stamp kit is going to be used for them to put their name on it. It has little letters. They're just going to put their last name on here with the little letters that are provided. Then they're going to put their division number down here in the center. And then they're able to stamp every single item that has a spot for them to stamp it. And that way they can keep up with their stuff, identify their stuff when they're doing laundry, or just in case anything gets mixed up while they're doing whatever. Also inside of this bag, you have a sewing kit. Just a basic sewing kit, so in just in case one of your buttons pop off, you can put the button back on. You don't have to send it out anywhere and get it done, so you can do sewing jobs on the spot. And this one here, we have the shoelaces. The shoelaces here are going to be used to tie up some of the items that you're going to be issued later on in boot camp. We fold it a certain way. We put the shoelaces on there and tie it the way it doesn't come unfolded. The next item is chapstick. We have chapstick because you need to keep your lips moisturized from all the water you're going to be drinking. That way your lips are not getting crusted and they're not bleeding. You have to go to medical and have to be set back in training also. You also have here floss for your hygiene, your personal hygiene. Brush your teeth, wash your face, shower, hygiene, floss your teeth. The way you're taking care of your personal hygiene. Next we have fingernail clippers. You have fingernail clippers for one reason, because of initial swim. You're required to cut your fingernails to a certain length so when you jump in the pool, you don't scratch up any of the instructors or any other recruit while you're in the pool. Also, the Navy has a standard of how short you should have your fingernails. That way you can keep and maintain your fingernails to a certain length. Inside the next small knit bag, we have laundry detergent so that they can wash all the uniform items that they're issued. Each recruit is issued one bag and they just collect them all at one time and wash all the stuff together. And this is how they get their stuff washed nice and clean. Next here we have a towel. This towel here is for them to dry off once they get out of the shower. Just a plain white basic towel. They're also going to put their name on it because they're going to turn them in so that they can be sent out to the next to be washed. Next here we have in this little knit bag, we have their stationery stuff, papers, envelopes, stamps. The way that they can write letters home, study material. Inside the little checkpoint notebook here for inspections, that way that they can have like little cheat sheets. We also, like I say, we have envelopes here And we have a notepad here so they can write notes and letters and stuff home to their family members and loved ones. The last knit bag we have here, we have 2 towels for them to bathe with when they get in the shower for hygiene. 2 little blue washcloth towels. Wash their face in the morning, whatever. We have lotion because of the windy weather, the bad weather. Stay moist, keep your skin nice and moisturized. So we have razors so that every recruit can shave every single day. We also have shaving cream so they can use shaving cream so their face doesn't get bumped up. They don't have razor bumps or anything like that. So we give them shaving cream so they can shave their face. Here we have body wash. The body wash is so that they can, once again, hygiene. Once a day they're required to hygiene. When they go to the pool, they hygiene at the pool. And this is the basic soap that they get so they can do their hygiene. Next here we have shampoo. It's shampoo so that they can wash their hair. Like I say, they're going to go to the pool, so when they come back and they want to get the chlorine out their hair, they just have shampoo to wash it. Next we have deodorant. The deodorant is so that they can put on after they hygiene, and once they get done with PT, they're not all sweaty and stinky, so that they can all be around each other. We also have toothpaste, basic toothpaste, so they can, in the morning, whenever they need to, go and brush their teeth. We also have toothbrushes in the bag. You have 2 toothbrushes, that way you can change out throughout boot camp. And they're just there so recruits can wake up in the morning, brush their teeth, before bedtime, brush their teeth, do it whenever they need to. After they do hygiene, they do laundry in-house, then they pass it back out later on in the nighttime. The last item inside this bag is a toothbrush holder. Toothbrush holder is just so that they can put their toothbrush inside of this little plastic tube. That way it's not exposed and getting dirty and getting other dirty items on the toothbrush. Keep it clean.
So this is all free, right? Like they don't have to pay for this, right?
They don't physically pay here. It's taken out of their first check and then eventually it's put back in their check so that they don't have to actually pay for it. These are all the items that they're issued in their ditty box on the first night here at Great Lakes RTC. This is everything they're going to need, the basic necessities to begin their journey at RTC.
This artist is mixing together a special glue using araldite and zinc powder. It's one of the ways artists in India have updated the art of parchin kari, or marble inlay, since it was used 400 years ago to decorate the Taj Mahal. Artisans work with such small pieces, they say the strain can damage their eyesight, and the wear and tear on the skin causes them to lose their fingerprints. But now this work, which lines the walls of one of the world's most famous buildings, is in danger of disappearing. Today, artists make most of their money selling pieces to tourists visiting the Taj Mahal. But the COVID-19 pandemic weakened tourism and led to a steep decline in marble inlay artists. The job is also not as lucrative as it once was, forcing generations of younger artists to choose different career paths than their ancestors. We went to Agra in Uttar Pradesh, India, to find out how parchin kari is still standing. Arif Ahmed is a direct descendant of artisans who decorated the Taj Mahal. His family is one of only a few left carrying on the marble inlay tradition in India.
बहुतों ने छोड़ दिया, ये मैं समझता हूँ कि 50% लोगों ने छोड़ दिया होगा.
And that number could be even higher. According to some estimates, the number of marble inlay artisans in Agra has declined by up to 70% over the last 2 decades. For Arif, this work is a source of pride, and its disappearance would be devastating. He started learning the art of parchin kari from his father when he was just about 10 years old.
पच्चीकारी का मेहनत का तो बहुत काम है, मगर क्या है कि लोगों को उस हिसाब से पैसे नहीं.
His father, Hafiz Ahmed Khan, was granted the esteemed title of Shilp Guru by the Indian government and has won national awards for his marble work.
उनसे बढ़िया कोई पॉपी फ्लावर बनाया नहीं आज तक.
Today, Arif is using many of the same tools, methods, and materials that his ancestors did. starting with high-quality marble sourced from Makrana, a small city near Jaipur, Rajasthan. It's durable, water-resistant, and has few impurities. It's also high in calcium, which gives it its pure white color. Varun Bansai has been working with Arif for about 15 years. He learned the marble craft from his father and grandfather. This same kind of marble was used to build the walls of the Taj Mahal. Varun and his team quarry raw slabs of marble and cut them using circular saws to separate the clean, usable chunks. Water helps cool the blade and reduce dust while they work. They then mold and carve the marble into tabletops of various shapes and sizes for the artisans. Finally, they deliver the finished marble to showrooms and to artisans like Arif. Today, Arif's team is designing an elephant sculpture made from Makrana marble, a popular souvenir among tourists visiting the Taj Mahal. Designers first cover the marble in brightly colored water-based acrylic paint, so the patterns they draw stand out better against the white marble. They draw freehand designs directly onto the painted marble with a pencil. The designs can be quite complex, like this one with thousands of flower petals, leaves, and thin vines. The patterns are often inspired by the inlay on the Taj Mahal, which looms over the city of Agra. The Taj Mahal was built between 1631 and 1648 under Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan. The marble was carried in using elephants from Jaipur. To decorate the walls, trained inlay workers were brought in from Persia. A debunked legend held that the Shah forced the artisans to have their hands cut off after they were finished, so they couldn't replicate the beauty of the Taj Mahal anywhere else. Even though no one really lost their hands, Arif says Shah Jahan made sure the secrets of the art were protected in other ways.
का मुराद ये था कि जिस बिल्डिंग में आपने जैसे ये काम करा है तो आप उन लोगों को इतना मुआवजा दिया कि आप ये काम दूसरी जगह उस पीरियड में नहीं करेंगे.
Many of the Persian artisans used their payment to put down roots in Agra, and thanks to their descendants, the city is still today a major producer of Parchin Kari. A Parchin Kari artist will eventually fill each of these outlined spaces with a small piece of precious or semi-precious stone, chosen based on its color and aesthetics. While the marble comes from India, the stones are sourced from all over the world, including from Japan, Germany, and Iran.
ये चारों सेमी प्रेशियस स्टोन है और ये रोज क्वार्ट्ज है अपना. ये अपने पास अगेट है. ये लेपिस है, लेपिस लाजूरी, और ये अपना मेलाकाइट है. कलर के ऊपर भी डिपेंड करता है. कलर अच्छा होगा तो जाहिर सी बात है कि उसका रेट भी ज़्यादा ही होगा.
Artisans buy these stones from local shops where they're widely available. The more stones used in the design, the more expensive the final piece will be.
I think it's near about 10,000 stone in this.
Arif estimates a table like this would cost about 40,000 rupees, or $480. It also has lights installed beneath it to illuminate the finished design. The size of the piece will also affect the price and increase the amount of time it takes to finish.
ये पीकॉक का डिज़ाइन का ये है तो अब इसको बनाने में ये इसमें कोई वर्क में तकरीबन कोई 5 स्क्वायर फीट है. इसके अंदर कम से कम 15 दिन जाएंगे. मोज़ाइक वर्क है. बॉर्डर इसका MOP मदर ऑफ पर्ल का है. बाकी का अब इटालियन स्टोन है और आपका इंडियन स्टोन है कुछ. तो इसको इधर से टूटने के चांसेस है ट्रांसपोर्ट के अंदर. बड़ा पीस है.
The smaller, more detailed work Arif describes as intoxicating work because it requires more time and intense concentration to get right.
ये 32 पीस हैं इसके अंदर. 8 पीस ये, बाकी 20 पीस ये हैं, 4 पीस ये हैं.
It takes half a day just to make one of these flowers.
अक्सर टूटे आते हैं ज़्यादातर. बड़ी उससे मेहनत से मशक्क़त से उसको बचाना पड़ता है.
Arif says this work could damage his eyes from the strain if he does it for too many years. But choosing which stone goes where is one of his favorite stages of the creative process. When the designer is satisfied with their rough design, the artist traces it onto a sheet of translucent butter paper. They mark each tiny petal and leaf on the paper, like a massive and complex color by number, noting which stone will be placed where.
कम्युनिकेशन भी ज़रूरी है, तो बिना कलर कम्युनिकेशन के कोई चीज़ अच्छी नहीं लगेगी.
Then they retrace these shapes directly onto the flat precious stones, with red or blue carbon paper placed in between. Cutting out these shapes requires a rotating wheel with very sharp diamond-edged blades. Each blade lasts for only about 3 days. Depending on the hardness of the stone, they could wear out even faster.
जितने थोड़ा थोड़ा देखना करीब 2 mm का है, करीब 2-3 mm का, ये डायमंड है बस. ये खत्म हो जाएगा, यहाँ तक हो जाएगा खत्म, बेकार ब्लेड बेकार हो जाएगा.
Updated technology like this has sped up the inlay process quite a bit since the days of the Taj Mahal.
जो काम आज 15 मिनट में होता है, वो पूरे दिन के अंदर होता था.
But some artisans, like Shafiq Uddin, still choose to use the tools of their ancestors, like this hand-operated pulley, even though he owns a motorized blade as well.
ये हैंडीक्राफ्ट बोलते हैं, ये मशीन हैंडीक्राफ्ट नहीं है.
Work like this, however, comes with a lot of physical risks. The cutters use their bare hands and must get dangerously close to the blade to make sure they get an accurate shape. It can also cause a lot of wear and tear on their skin, even eroding their fingerprints permanently. They are always breathing in marble dust. And while shaping the stones, they often work with water, which can numb their fingers in the cold months, when temperatures in the area can drop to around 4 to 8 degrees Celsius.
ठंड में यहाँ कारीगर कम काम करता है, मतलब जो 10-12 घंटे काम कर ले, वो 6-7 घंटे काम कर पाता है, हिम्मत नहीं होती.
Once the stone is cut, another worker will fine-tune the shape and polish it for a smoother edge using an emery wheel. Each cut stone is then lightly glued into the marble. Then artisans scrape an outline around the border to make sure they all fit perfectly. The elephant is heated by the fire so the temporary glue will soften and the stones can be removed to complete the inlay. At this point, they use a variety of pointed metal tools to dig, cut, and scrape out a shallow recess in the marble several millimeters deep. To attach the stones to the marble, the Taj Mahal workers were said to have used a special glue consisting of sugarcane, beeswax, honey, lemon juice, marble dust, and lentils. This type of glue needed to be used right away and would expire quickly. Today, however, there are many synthetic alternatives that last longer and are easier to make. They mix an adhesive called araldite with zinc powder and acrylic paint to create a paste. This will harden while the marble is being prepared. When ready for use, they heat the hardened glue with a hot coal so it's malleable and fill the entire gap in the marble. The stones are pressed one by one into the glue in the originally designed inlay pattern. Once the glue dries, they then use different types of sandpaper and polish pads to bring out the shine and smooth the surface. As they work, the pink dye is wiped away, leaving only white marble and brightly colored stonework. Artisans typically sell pieces like this to showrooms or marketplaces, which then resell them to buyers, many of whom are tourists visiting the Taj Mahal.
ताजमहल के बिना हम ये काम कर नहीं सकते. ताजमहल देखने आता है फॉरेनर तो हमारे ये प्रोडक्ट लेके जाता है.
The COVID-19 pandemic brought tourism to a halt, which led to a downturn in the marble inlay business.
लॉकडाउन में हुआ जब कारीगर जब बेकार हो गए, शोरूम से सब कारोबार था, कुछ शोरूम वगैरह बंद हो गए, तो जब तक काम ही बंद था तो फिर वो किसी ना कुछ अलग ये काम वर्क छोड़ दिया.
Arif says he hopes the government will one day open its own showroom and buy directly from artisans to help boost their business. Meanwhile, workers put in a lot of time and effort for little profit. But it's not just a decline in tourism that's a threat to the future of the craft. The job is not as lucrative as it once was, so many young people are opting for other fields.
हमारे दादा के टाइम तक तो बहुत अच्छे पैसे मिलते थे क्योंकि हर चीज़ की सस्ता था। जैसे ही महंगाई बढ़ती चली गई, पैसे इंक्रीज़ नहीं हुए, कारीगरों को नहीं, और जो बना के उनको दे रहा है उनके भी पैसे इंक्रीज़ हुए। तो उससे कारीगरों ने आज की डेट के अंदर जो पहले के सीखे, वो कोई ये काम सीखना चाहता नहीं है, ना अपने औलाद को सिखाना नहीं चाहता, क्योंकि वो चाहता है पढ़ लिख के अपने औलाद को मैं इंजीनियर बनाऊं या किसी भी उसमें लाऊं।
These days, Arif's son enjoys watching him work, but Arif says he'd never force him to become a Parchin Kari artist. Others, like Mohammed, don't plan on passing the legacy down to their kids.
अब तो ये कि बहुत कम हो गया है काम ये, पहले ऐसी बात नहीं है, अब कोई सीख भी नहीं रहा है। मेरी दो बेटियां थी, दोनों की शादी हुई, मेरा बेटा भी पढ़ रहा है, पढ़ा रहा है, ये काम नहीं सिखाएंगे।
New workers are entering the trade, Arif says, but they are choosing simpler work that requires less training, like creating larger wall pieces or those with less stone.
ये तो हाथ से ही शेप देके जो बारीक काम है ना, ये इसी से ही बनता है.
And the production of small, highly detailed pieces, the intoxicating work that's been passed down from generation to generation, is in danger of being lost forever. But their creations will last for years, just as the Taj Mahal has withstood the test of time.
मगर वो कारीगर नहीं रहा होगा जो जिसे आर्ट पीस जो बना सके, जिसे आर्ट पीस कह सके, फिर सिर्फ वो कारीगर रहेगा कि भाई मुझे 2 पैसे कहाँ से ज़्यादा मिल रहे हैं और मैं कैसे कम करूँ.
The face mask and full-body coverings to protect from stings. This smoker calms the bees, so they can easily remove honeycomb frames. Beekeepers scrape the wax that keeps the honey in each cell. Finally, a centrifuge spins the frames, pushing the honey out of the combs. But globally, there is more honey being sold than the world's bees are capable of making. Only counterfeits containing little to no real honey can explain that difference. Dupes are made up of high fructose corn syrup and other cheap syrups like glucose, rice, cane, or beet.
You don't have to go to all the hard work of the beekeeping and all of that lengthy process. You just get maybe some honey and some other honey from somewhere else. You blend it together, you add some sugars.
Many experts say the fake honey often comes from China, the biggest honey exporter on the planet. Fraudsters in China market sugar syrups that will outsmart lab tests if added to honey, or they'll filter out all the pollen, making it impossible to trace.
This stuff that's being shipped out of China technically isn't even honey. You're looking at that honey going through so many pairs of hands. So there are many, many opportunities for it to be bulked out with cheaper sugars.
In 2013, the U.S. Justice Department busted 2 American honey importers in one of the biggest food fraud cases in U.S. history. In what's now called Honeygate, they routed sham Chinese honey laced with antibiotics through other countries to avoid import fees. Both had to pay millions in fines. But Sarah does have a few tips. First, avoid any label with the word blend.
The very act of processing honey, that damages honey irreparably. Even if they're not adding anything, they're corrupting that honey and they're making it worthless, just a worthless jar of sugars.
She says your best bet is to buy raw honey from a local producer at a nearby farmer's market and be willing to pay a little bit more.
If you're going for the cheap end of the market, you're going to get an awful lot of fraudulently produced honey.
Olive oil also tops our list of frequently faked foods. Authentic extra virgin olive oil has to be freshly squeezed from ripe olives. Most come from farms in Spain, Italy, or Greece. Like this cooperative farm in Antequera, Spain, the largest olive oil producer in the world. Workers harvest olives from November to January using these vibrating machines that shake the fruit loose. They dump the olives into big trailers waiting to head to factories. This one can process thousands of olives an hour. First, washing off any dirt. Extra virgin olive oil is the least processed kind out there, using no heat or chemicals. The machines grind the olives into a thick paste, and then spin it. Massive decanters press it out of the mush. The factory pumps the oil into storage and finally into bottles. This is one of the most expensive cooking oils in the world, selling for over $10 a 17-ounce bottle. And it's easy to imitate, so criminal rings making fake oil have thrived since ancient Rome. Some fill up these bottles with cheap soybean or vegetable oil. Others mix in lower-grade olive oil but still label it as extra virgin.
If you hold a bottle of olive oil up to the light in the supermarket, you can't tell if it has corn oil in it or not.
Some are so organized, they have their own supply chains, from farms to bottling facilities, like this ring in Italy that Europol busted. So how do you know what you're buying is real extra virgin?
If it just says virgin, if it just says olive oil, if it says olive oil blend, if it says light olive oil, it's not an olive oil that I would buy. You don't want to buy anything that's not extra virgin. They don't leave those words off on purpose, right?
Plus, if it's $3 a bottle, Larry says it's too good to be true. The pressed on date is also important. European oils are harvested in the fall and winter, so if you're buying a Spanish olive oil in August, it's nearly a year old. Larry says it starts losing flavor after a year or two. So you never want a pressed on date that's more than 2 years old. You could also smell it. Real olive oil has a fruity and grassy smell. If it smells like nothing, or it's rancid, there's a good chance it's not real. This is real Wagyu beef, but what's popping up on menus across the US probably isn't. Wagyu literally means Japanese cow, and it refers to 4 main breeds. The Japanese government tightly regulates how these cows are raised to control the quality of their meat. A popular type of Wagyu is Kobe beef, which comes from the area around Kobe, Japan. The steers, or castrated bulls, are fed a strict diet of rice and corn. Foodies love their meat for its tenderness, sweetness, and distinct marbling. As of 2019, a pound of Wagyu could cost up to $200. The cows themselves could sell for as much as $30,000. That can be more than 10 times the price of Black Angus cattle. And Japan only exports a few thousand tons a year, so Wagyu in American restaurants isn't always up to Japanese standards. Most of the Wagyu cattle in the US have also been bred with other, hardier breeds that can handle environments like the dry heat of Texas, so their meat isn't 100% Wagyu. According to USDA rules, Wagyu cows only need to have one parent with at least 93.7% Wagyu genetics, so they could have as little as 46.9% themselves and still be called Wagyu. The USDA isn't responsible for what goes on at restaurants, so they can more easily get away with listing something as Wagyu on a menu when it might not be up to snuff.
Arby's made a new burger, upgraded it with rich, juicy Wagyu beef.
Take this commercial for Arby's Wagyu burger. In the fine print, you'll see it contains only 51% American Wagyu. So how can you make sure your $300 is getting you an actual Wagyu steak? Well, first, you can look at it. The fat in real Wagyu is evenly distributed. The marbling is distinctive with thin, intricate white veins. Also, Larry says Kobe would rarely, if ever, be served on the bone, and it doesn't make the best burger because it's too tender to be formed into patties. If you're still not convinced, you can ask to see the Wagyu's certificate of authenticity, or look for this bronze statue in restaurants authorized to sell Kobe. You might be surprised to learn even your coffee could be phony. You could just be brewing up a bag of inferior beans marketed as some more expensive ones. Or it could be something completely different, ground acorns, barley, or wheat.
Coffee is big, big, big business. And historically, it has been cut with anything that's brown. Burnt paper, burnt corn, sawdust.
That's because growing coffee is expensive and labor-intensive. Farmers need to harvest more than 1,500 of these cherries to make just 1 pound of coffee beans. And they have to do it fast.
We have to do something.
Seen from miles above, these rings in the ocean look like natural coral reefs. But zoom in on high-resolution satellite images, and you can make out military bases with 10,000-foot runways, ports, and gun emplacements. The South China Sea is bristling not just with artificial islands, but with egos. Here, China is facing off against the Philippines, Vietnam, and now the United States. And as the Chinese bases and fleets keep growing, and its opponents look to do the same, this is a watery battleground that looks ripe to ignite.
The chance of a small military incident that then really puts the US and China into a Cold War is very real in the South China Sea.
So will island building lead to conflict? We spoke to the director of the Asia Maritime Transparency Initiative.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And analysed shipping data and the rapidly changing view from above to understand how close we might be. The islands first started to appear just over 10 years ago. The Philippines, Vietnam, and to a lesser extent Malaysia have since been engaged in a race to claim, occupy, and fortify outposts in the South China Sea. But no one does it on a scale quite like China.
It's not that people are outraged because China built islands. They're outraged because China built islands with the express purpose of kicking around its smaller neighbors. So now there are Chinese planes overhead, Chinese ships on the water, 24 hours a day, everywhere in the South China Sea, made possible only by all of that island building.
The superpower has 20 outposts in the Paracel Islands and 7 in the Spratlys. Of these, 4 are fully operational air and naval bases.
They've got deep water harbors and all the harbor works that would go with them. They've got point defenses and anti-ship missiles and anti-air missiles to defend themselves. These are fully functional, and I think people don't appreciate the scale we're talking about. I mean, Subi Reef, which is just 12.5 miles from the nearest Philippine base, is roughly the size of the Pearl Harbor naval base of the US in Hawaii.
The Philippines occupies 9 features in the Spratlys, with just 1 airstrip. Vietnam has the most, around 50 outposts spread across 27 locations in the South China Sea, and Malaysia has 5. Now, with the region bristling with ships, firepower, and tension, clashes are inevitable. In fact, they are happening all the time. One particular hotspot is this patch of ocean, around 100 miles from the coast of the Philippines. Back in the 1990s, China occupied what was then an underwater feature called Mischief Reef. Over time, China began to build permanent structures.
The Philippines panics, and they respond by going to the next closest reef, which happened to be Second Thomas Shoal, and intentionally grounding this useless old warship that they had no other better thing to do with onto the reef as an emergency outpost to keep an eye on Mischief Reef.
That was in 1999. But if you zoom in and look closely, you can see that the old ship is still there. Today, the Sierra Madre operates as a permanent military outpost for the Philippines. Marines rotate on and off while boats coming from the mainland resupply it with food and water. Meanwhile, Mischief Reef has been transformed.
Mischief Reef is this giant ring around a lagoon. Most of Washington, D.C. could fit inside of that lagoon.
It's from here that China can launch missions to intercept and intimidate Philippine vessels, including those trying to resupply the Sierra Madre.
And so for the last 2+ years, the Philippines has had to run a blockade of China Coast Guard and Chinese militia vessels every time it wants to get through to these 8 to 10 Marines who live on this rusting hulk and are completely reliant on outside food and potable water.
This video, filmed by the Philippines military aboard the warship on June 17, 2024, shows vessels from the Chinese Coast Guard trying to stop Philippine resupply boats. Footage shows Chinese crew wielding axes and knives. These maps show the movement of Chinese Coast Guard vessels between Mischief Reef and Second Thomas Shoal in recent years. And this is the route of Chinese Coast Guard vessel 5205 in August 2024. On the 31st of August, it was filmed ramming a Philippine ship close to the disputed Sabina Shoal, east of Second Thomas Shoal.
They've gone from just getting in the way and blaring the horn to using high-pressure water cannons to both injure sailors and try to disable the engines. They've used lasers to blind crew, they've used acoustic devices to try to deafen them, and on many occasions now they've begun to just ram Philippine vessels trying to get through. And the Philippines, to its credit, has not backed down.
In accordance with international and Philippine national laws, we are proceeding according to our planned route.
The big question then is, why is China doing this, and what does it stand to gain? It's partly about control. Control of one of the busiest shipping routes in the world, of the South China Sea's valuable fish stocks, and of the reserves of oil and gas beneath the seabed.
All of that stuff is true, all of it's relevant, but none of it is why Xi Jinping cares about the South China Sea. The Chinese Communist Party has told itself a fairy tale that these things belong to China in times immemorial, and therefore they must be recovered, and we should not assume a hyper-rational China, any more than any other state is hyper-rational, any more than the fact that the US and Canada still fight over the Gulf of Maine, or that the Philippines still claims North Borneo, or that the UK didn't give up maritime claims to Rockall Island until just a few years ago. Like, states do irrational things, and China is no more rational than any other.
But no matter how irrationally China is acting in the South China Sea, it's ultimately about geography and logistics. The Spratlys are 700 miles from the Chinese ports on Hainan. Having bases this far south gives China not only a physical foothold, but a launchpad for surveillance from the air and the sea. Look closely again at Mischief Reef.
It took barely a year for Mischief Reef to go from nothing to about 1,500 acres. And then they graded and paved everything, put a 3,000 meter airstrip on it, and all kinds of infrastructure to support naval deployments, etc., as well as sensing equipment, housing, officers' quarters, defensive equipment.
China uses the runway for surveillance aircraft like KJ-200 and KJ-500, giving Beijing a permanent eye in the sky over the South China Sea.
China has eyes everywhere, and it sees everything that all the other claimants and the outside parties like the US do.
For years, the dispute has come down to who owns what, who is entitled to what. And this is where it gets messy. Although in the eyes of international law, it should be fairly clear-cut. First, there's the territorial sea. That's the 12 nautical miles around any piece of land which a nation owns. Beyond that is the 200 nautical mile EEZ, or Exclusive Economic Zone. This is the area of ocean that stretches beyond the territorial sea, and where the nation is free to exploit the natural resources, and even build artificial islands. This map shows the competing EEZs for China, the Philippines, Vietnam, and the other nations. And in the middle of it all sits the Paracels and the Spratlys, and you can see why they are so hotly contested. What you can't do is build an artificial island in someone else's EEZ, and then claim your own rights around it. This is what China has done with Mischief Reef. But in 2016, an international tribunal ruled that China's claim over many features in the South China Sea, including land reclamation projects, were unlawful. And that should have been case closed.
I mean, legally, the dispute is now over a few dozen tiny dots of territorial sea in the middle of the ocean, and everything else should be pretty clear, except that China claims a whole nother set of entitlements. China famously draws this old dotted line map that originated in the 1930s, and it says basically anything we can't find a way to claim under UNCLOS inside that line, we claim with historic rights.
The tribunal also dismissed China's so-called 9-line claim, but China rejects the court's decision and continues to patrol water and claim reefs, rocks and islands that lie within another nation's EEZ. Vietnam, for one, has not shied away from the fight. In response to Chinese island building, the Vietnamese began building small outposts on reefs and sandbars. This map shows Vietnam's EEZ. The nation in fact claims all of the Paracel Islands and all of the Spratlys. The outposts often start as small concrete structures, like this one at Discovery Great Reef. Then from 2014 on, we start to see walkways, helipads, and small docks with deeper harbours cut into the reefs. Those are the dark areas you see here.
So all of that stuff was clearly meant to improve the resiliency of Vietnam's bases in the face of this massive Chinese buildup and this new level of coercion we saw under Xi Jinping. And then you've moved into a new phase of island building for Vietnam, which started probably about the end of 2021, but has accelerated over the last 18 months. And that's been the expansion of islands overall, where they've begun to mimic many of the tactics we saw from China, including using the same kind of dredgers.
This is Bark Canada Reef. Vietnam occupied it in 1987, and for years only had a small outpost. This is what it looks like now.
Bark Canada Reef went from being basically 0 acres of land to now the fourth largest island in the Spratlys, behind only China's Big Three. If Vietnam wants to protect what it has and protect its rights in its own waters, it needs to be able to patrol those waters in similar numbers to China. And it can't do that if Chinese boats only have to go 10 miles and the Vietnamese boats have to go 300 miles. That's just not math that'll ever work out.
For China, it's all about the math, and there's no doubt who's winning the numbers game.
Over the course of the last 40 years, China went from having a virtually no navy, no coast guard, and almost no fishing industry, to having the world's second largest navy. Largest by number of ships, second by tonnage to the US. By far the world's largest coast guard. The world's largest shipping industry, the world's largest fishing industry, the world's largest marine science industry, right? On and on and on. And a unique component of this has become China's maritime militia.
The militia are fishing boats either fully operated or contracted by the Chinese government. Their job is to disrupt and block boats from other competing nations in the South China Sea, or simply sit idle, maintaining a highly visible Chinese presence.
To see this new thing emerge in the South China Sea where Filipino and Vietnamese patrols would go out and they'd find hundreds of Chinese boats sitting at anchor, tied up to each other, often uncrewed or crewed by a skeleton crew just sitting around playing cards and watching their phones and not doing anything.
These are the movements of Chinese vessels identified by Asia Maritime Transparency Initiative as militia vessels on the same month from 2021 to 2024. With all the heightened tension above the water, an ecological disaster has been unfolding beneath the waves. To build these islands, engineers started by using clamshell dredgers, scooping sand and coral into barges and then dumping it in a pile to create islands. Nowadays, the likes of China and Vietnam are using methods that are even more destructive: suction dredging.
The drill bit grinds up everything indiscriminately. Rock, coral, marine life, sand, and then it shoots this, organic slurry out the other end. That's what China built its islands using. And that's why it didn't just kill the reef that was covered in sand, it killed all the reef nearby too. It dug up all the coral to make that sand, and then it put huge plumes of sediment into the water that drifted around and smothered anything that had managed to escape the initial digging.
As the islands and the rival navies expand, so does the chance that skirmishes turn to battles. The US has a mutual defense treaty with the Philippines and has promised to come to the aid of its old ally in the event of an attack on its military or its coast guard. Recent meetings between Joe Biden and his Philippine counterpart Ferdinand Marcos Jr. serve as a warning shot to China, specifically with regard to the South China Sea.
It's a numbers game. You hit people with enough water cannons, you ram their boats, eventually you are going to kill somebody.
But what Greg Poling and the Asia Maritime Transparency Initiative have noticed is not that the tides have turned, but that there seems to be a greater willingness to stand up to China.
The Philippines has begun to re-patrol around Scarborough Shoal for the first time since China took it from them in 2012. And it's been not only resupplying, but building up, shoring up the Sierra Madre, despite the Chinese blockades. China has, at least so far, been unwilling to use overt military force. And I think the Southeast Asians have realized that China can't have it both ways. If they just drive straight, if they ignore all the harassment, if they're firm and committed to this, they've been able to develop new resources, resupply their people, patrol where they want, and all China's behavior has done, really, is internationalize the disputes and create exactly the kind of anti-China coalition that Beijing has always feared, more than anything else.
Your actions have threatened China's sovereignty, security, and related rights and interests. To avoid miscalculations, leave and keep far off immediately. Over.
We are proceeding according to our planned route. Request to stay clear from our passage in accordance with the collision regulation. Over.